guys, I am going to call our special session to order. We do have a quorum, so I will entertain a motion for tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I will now entertain a motion putting us into executive session.
Madam Chair, I move that we move into executive session for Idaho Code 742061 B, D, and F. B, to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, or public school student. D, to consider records that are exempt from disclosure as provided in Chapter 1, Title 74 of Idaho Code. F, to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated. The mere presence of legal counsel at an executive session does not satisfy this requirement.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Chair Taylor?
Aye.
Trustee Kirkman?
Aye.
Trustee Sue?
Aye.
Trustee Benz?
Aye.
Trustee Jennings?
Aye.
Okay. We are going into executive session to return to regular session by 6 p.m. You guys, it is 6 p.m. and we will now enter regular session. I will entertain motions following executive session.
Madam Chair?
Is trustee Benz on yet?
Not yet?
That's okay, I think, we'll just announce her when she comes on.
Okay, perfect.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the written decision in response to employee A's grievance appeal and have the clerk deliver the signed decision to the employee.
Second, motion has been made and seconded. Is this a roll call, Clerk Lamont? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And do we have trustee Benz? Okay. I will entertain a second motion for an additional item following executive session.
Madam Chair, I move to authorize the district to publish a request for bid for student transportation services.
Okay, I second, and with that second, I will allow discussion for the motion. So,
What?
oh, no,
I
no.
was just sighing.
Okay. So with that bid, I think that what we have come to the conclusion of is that we are just looking for a more cost-effective solution.
Yeah, Chair Taylor, I think we just need to look at options when it comes to transportation.
Okay. All right, with that being said, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, with that, we are going to go into regular business. Do we have any trustee comments? No. Okay, and do we have trustee Benz yet? We do, great. Perfect. I have Clerk Lamont pulling the sheet for public comment. Thank you. All right, with that, I will call up Doris Atherton, please. All right, Mrs. Atherton, have you spoken to us before?
It's been quite a while.
Okay, I'm just going to give you a refresher. We're going to put 3 minutes up on the board. Before your 3 minutes starts, we are just going to have you go ahead and state your name and zone or address for the record. And then your 3 minutes will start counting down after those two things are spoken.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So my name is Doris Appleton, and I'm in zone 2.
I think.
Okay,
I know there's been changes.
I think you are.
Greetings, board members. My name is Doris Atherton. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Centennial Elementary. I come to you tonight with a heavy heart regarding the possibility of ending our school year early. As we face the closure of our beloved school, both students and staff are grappling with the emotional toll of saying goodbye. For many of our students, Centennial has been their home away from home for their entire academic journey. The prospect of leaving familiar surroundings, teachers, and friends to start anew in different schools is daunting and unsettling. I understand that there is discussion about closing the school early to allow teachers time to pack and prepare for the move to our new locations. While some may see this as a practical solution, I believe it is essential to consider the emotional needs of our students during this transition. Closing the school early would deprive students of the opportunity to properly say goodbye to their school, teachers, and classmates. It's not just about physical belongings or logistics, it's about closure, celebration, and honoring the shared experiences that have shaped our community. For decades, we teachers have dedicated the first week of our summer break to cleaning and organizing our classrooms, preparing for the deep clean, and packing our materials. While the idea of accomplishing this task under contract is appealing, I firmly believe that the time we have left with our students is far more valuable than any amount of paid time for cleaning and packing. Therefore, I implore you not to close our school early. If it is deemed necessary, I ask that any closure be limited to just one day. We need this time to say goodbye properly, to celebrate our achievements, and to provide closure for both students and staff. Thank you for considering my perspective. I trust that you will make a decision that prioritizes the emotional well-being of our school community.
You.
Thank you.
Doris, thank you for taking your time tonight to be here with us. Okay, From public comment, trustees, we are going to move into the action item portion of our agenda. I do want to confirm that trustee Benz is now active. No. Okay. Clerk Lamont, can I have you just text with trustee Benz to make sure that she's in the process of getting on. All right, we are going to go into the 2023-2024 student calendar early release. Dr. Russell.
Chair Taylor, trustees, before you tonight is a possible action item around our student calendar early release. If you remember last month, actually a couple of weeks ago, this month when we had our board meeting, we had a discussion around closing school early for those buildings that were closing this year. And there was a discussion around West. That's what the administration originally brought up, and the board had some discussion about. Is that something we should consider for the whole district? Is that something we should consider for some of the other buildings that are closing? And so before you tonight and is a recommendation from the administration to keep school as scheduled for all of our buildings except those schools that are closing. You'll see they're in your memo, excuse me. Centennial Elementary, Greenhurst, and Snake River, we would recommend closing one day early. And this speaks to the comments that we just heard in our public comment around trying to find a balance, because it is a balance between honoring many of the things that we have going on at the end of the school year, closing some of those buildings, but also giving our staffs some of the preparation they need in doing that, because it is a big job and it's something that is abnormal from a normal summer. Kind of deep clean is getting ready to get your things out of the building. So we try to strike a balance with that. So our recommendation is consider one day for those schools. For the other schools in our district, we would ask that we keep it the same, just because we have plans in place. There are many celebrations. Many schools have already kind of developed those, and just has the least amount of disruption. So that's the recommendation tonight, and happy to answer any questions you may have on that.
Trustees, I will entertain questions, discussion, or a motion.
Yeah, quick question. I was trying to find it here before we got to that point. But there was an email that came in just a couple of hours ago. I think it was from, there it is, Jamie McCowan.
Okay.
So the question just is, what about like she's at Park Ridge. They're not closing, but they're moving 2 schools out, or there's a lot of upheaval in that school. Any thoughts around, I mean, the issue brought up in this email was,
And I would second it, because they're a split. They've got one wing. I get the concern. They have one wing that's not being utilized, and then they had a full.
they got to move. They got to move out to move in, and so I get the logistics. And I just wanted to bring this up because this email came in just a couple hours ago.
Well, they have to move programs, correct? Aren't they a K-12?
Chair Taylor, trustees,
K8,
they are a
thank you.
K-12.
Oh, they are a K-12.
They're K8. excuse me.
K-8. Okay, they are a K-8. Thank
Sorry,
you.
we got rid of.
No, it's good.
Yeah, one of the schools there. So to answer the question, Trustee Kirkman, it is a good question. I think we have many schools that are moving throughout.
Sure.
And Park Ridge is not any different than some of the other schools that have the same situations because of the changes this year. We did consider that. We did think about that. We did talk about that. Again, having considered all of that, and trying to not disrupt the entire district as much, we really felt we were just trying to do those schools that were closing. It is understandable, though, Park Ridge does have definitely some things they are doing around moving, but I think every school
Has some different
Some-
things. Okay, but I liked that he brought that up as well, because I've seen that in action.
Madam Chair,
Please.
and I've heard this multiple times, and Ms. Atherton just repeated it. Am I correct to assume that the week after school closes, when they clean, it's free time or it's not paid time?
Chair Taylor, Trustee Sue, that is accurate. The teacher's calendars ends on May 31st. We have until June 7th before that is schools need to be cleaned out for our construction. I'm looking at Mr. Stoffer just to make sure those dates are accurate.
Follow comment. That's just talk to your legislatures, people. These people, teachers are working for free for a week just to get the room clean for the next year. So thank you for all that you do.
All right, trustees, with that, do we have any more questions, discussion, or I will still entertain a motion?
If there isn't, I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll hesitate.
Go ahead.
2 seconds.
It's all right.
Or Taylor. I move that we approve the request to allow Centennial Elementary, Snake River Elementary, and Greenhurst Elementary to end school for students on May 30th, 2024.
motion has been made and seconded, and how many days early is that?
One.
One, okay. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Did we get a vote for trustee? Okay, perfect. On page 20.
Chair of the Trustees, tonight we have a action item that piggybacks on the decision that was made at our last regular board meeting around the 4-day student contact. The board did vote to move to a 4-day student contact week for the next school year, but we have not made a decision about what day would that student contact day be, or non-student contact day. Would that be Monday or would that be a Friday? So in your board packet, you'll see there are a couple of calendars for the board to consider. There is a Friday non-student contact day, and then there's a Monday non-student contact day. There is also a information in the board packet around Idaho code, around the amount of hours. You'll see that in there as well. Board memo, and then the administration did put out a survey out to our parents, staff. And see that closed today at noon. So we put that in a little bit later. You may not have had a lot of time to look through that. If you'd like.
Is that the one you emailed? Or
And then the board packet you'll see in the calendars, again, for the students, it just talks about when school would start, when school would get out, when there would be holidays, when the trimesters would end, how many student days there would be in each of the trimesters. You'll see that on the calendars, and that information is to the right of the calendars. Happy to answer any questions or get any clarifications that you may have on that.
Trustees, I will entertain questions, comments, or a motion here.
yeah, with this, the response in the survey, Chair Taylor, what is missing for me is the reasons. And that's what I would kind of hope to dive a little bit more into. What is the reason that everyone selected Friday? Any idea?
Trustee Kirkman, if
Go
I'm
ahead.
asking.
I think we're asking for an answer for
Yeah,
that
I'm
question.
asking. staff.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Chair Taylor, Trustee Kirkman, it's a good question. I don't know if I could dig into why Friday over a Monday. The only thing I could see is there is a lot of travel around athletics and activities, typically on a Friday more so than on a Monday. That is beneficial there. I believe it's just a preference. I don't have any other more information about really why folks selected other things. I think you could have probably depend upon who the person you asked, how they saw that. It was consistent. Again, I think we saw this in an earlier survey did see Friday as a preference.
Mr. Heath, can I have you put the survey up on the board? So this time we had 4,000 responses.
Close to that, yes.
And for my old unseeing eyes, I don't know face.
Chair, would you like me to just kind of walk through that?
Please, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you'll see up there, trustees, there is about 4,000, a little over 3,900, well, actually about 3,950, kind of right in there, 3,946 responses. There's a parent and guardians that was sent to staff and our students. You can kind of see there was 71% of the respondents were parents, 20% were staff, 9% were students. Again, what student contact day did they, non-student contact day they prefer? It was again 74% preferred a Friday as a non-student contact day over a Monday, which was 26%. And then you can see the preferences by the role. So 76% of our parents preferred Friday as a non-student contact day over 24% for Monday. For the staff, it was 66% preferred a Friday as a non-student contact day compared to 34% for a Monday. And then for our students, 72% preferred a Friday as a non-student contact day and 28% preferred a Monday.
Chair Taylor, another question. The calendar that's in our packet on this particular action item for the Friday does not have, it looks, I printed this off today, but this is the one that came out of the February packet that was presented to us a couple of, is that the same calendar? Because the contact days are not indicated on the calendar that we're looking at now. If you could pull that up, Tyler.
Sure, Taylor. Trustee Kirkman's a good question. I'm going to ask Mr. Knopp if he would know about if that calendar presented in February is the same calendar here. I think was the question.
Yeah, the one in February that I'm looking at here, not the one that, not this one, has the staff only directed, non-directed days indicated on this calendar, but not on that one. So I'm just wondering if they're the same.
Yes, they are the same. And so are we looking
I
at
thought
two
you were
different?
looking at Dr. Russell.
Well,
but
I was,
looking up
I'm a
at the
little
screen.
confused because the calendar that Tyler has up has the student contact days down on the bottom. It has.
No, I'm talking about the staff only directed or
So
non-directed. days.
correct. So this calendar is for students and family only. We're waiting for negotiations to get much farther
And
down the
that's-
line to get to the staff portion of that. Obviously, the number of staff days is contractual.
It's not the same calendar that was in the February packet that is presented in this packet.
From
It's different because
I don't have the February one.
non-contact days is not.
Are not indicated on this.
correct. From that standpoint, yes, you are correct. This is
And
a
it's-
student family only.
Right.
The days and dates and total number of days students are in contact are the same, but we did pull the staff portion out.
And those staff days wouldn't, there's no way we could, I mean, we have to go through negotiations for that, right? Or are we looking at 2 a month no matter what because of hours and so on?
Trustee, Chair Taylor, Trustee Kirkman, good questions. There is financial ramifications around the amount of days in there. We are trying to work through our negotiations team. We have not done a calendar in negotiations for a long time. Typically, we have set that differently. I think it's because this year is unique in the sense that we are moving to a 4-day student contact week, that trying to work with our teachers association and just trying to come to an understanding of what those days are. I think we can take multiple directions with that. The board could have their suggestions for us. The board could have us try to set those days. I think we've already tried working through that, but the board has a choice to do either or. We've just tried currently right now trying to go through our negotiation system to kind of determine that.
But Dr. Russell, those things, those suggestions would have to be in executive session when it comes to contract negotiations.
Chair Taylor, Trustee Kirkman,
It seems like there's a fine line on what.
it is a fine line, which is why I'm struggling a little
Yeah.
bit. There is a fine line. When it comes to finances and things like that, yes, I mean, that would be something we'd want to discuss in executive session. It'd probably be a good question to ask our legal counsel as well, to get their opinion kind of how that is.
Trustee Copan, board members.
Yeah.
Also, because we are also aware we're going to have a special meeting prior to May 31st. The board can decide tonight, but you also have time because the deadline is May 31st.
Quick question though, with this motion, are you actually asking for a calendar approval or a day? Because this motion reads to me that you're asking for a contact approval day and not a calendar at this time, right?
That would be-
Is that what you guys are reading too? I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that I'm reading that the same way, that tonight we're not actually
We're
picking the
approving the
calendar.
Monday or a
We're
Friday?
approving the Monday or the Friday, correct?
Chair Taylor, it's a great question and great clarification. We are asking for for a non-student contact to be chose and a calendar to be chose.
I
It
see. Thank you.
Probably is a poorly worded suggested memo. That would be my fault. Because I could have labeled maybe the calendar as an A or B and put the non-student contact day and the calendar in there. My assumption was if you chose a non-student contact day, that would thus choose the calendar either a Monday or a Friday, was the thinking in the suggested
Okay.
memo,
Got it.
for clarification's sake.
And then Clerk Lamont, just for clarification, the calendar itself has to be approved by what date?
Has to be approved and submitted to the state by May 31st.
And what you just reminded us of is that we will have a special meeting prior. Okay, thank you. I was just following. And were we saying trustee Benz has a question? Is that what that motion was?
No. Oh, no, I
Oh.
was like, Tyler, can you throw the,
Okay,
he didn't, I don't, yeah, he knew my sign language.
that was good. Okay, trustee Kirkman.
So again, and I'm going to try to say something that I'm not supposed to say something in public meeting, if it's part of the contract negotiation, but for example, October 31st as a no school on this calendar, let me just check real quick. October 30th would be a teacher, so the 31st, yeah, no school teacher comp day. Is a comp day something that is negotiated in the contract?
Chair Taylor, trustee Kirkman, I believe it is negotiated
And
under,
I can address that that's for parent-teacher conference.
No,
So,
this is the day after.
correct. So
Correct, yeah.
because of the 2 evening sessions for parent-teacher conference, that is considered a day of work. And so then we comp a day.
The 2 evenings is one day,
Correct.
comp the day after.
Correct.
to the question, I'm looking at Mr. Yarborough, is it in one of the articles? I would have to
No,
double
it's
check.
not.
And I guess general question, maybe to jump out a little bit more here, the general question is, are those comp days, teacher comp days negotiated in general in the contract negotiations?
They are not. They have been traditionally within our calendar, and that's how we've handled parent-teacher conference for an extended period of time. So there hasn't been specific, we are negotiating this comp day in relationship to parent-teacher conference. That's been a practice that we have long held. And as you'll see, that is the only day that we have within there. There is only one required parent-teacher conference within that calendar. And so that is the comp day that provides for that, as staff is working all day with students and an evening session the next day from in the morning, all evening. And so then that's the comp day on the next day.
So trustees, it may be helpful to understand historically how we develop a calendar, just so we have clarity, because this is a unique year. Historically, what we have done is develop a calendar group of folks that comes together that includes representation from our association, but also includes some administration, some other teachers. They meet as a team. They discuss the various dates of when school would start, when Christmas break would be, when Thanksgiving would be, and when comp days would be for parent-teacher conferences. And then that was presented to the superintendent. The superintendent then kind of looks it over to make sure that it meets budget, and that it meets some of the other requirements that we have, because usually there's a charge, and then that is presented, the superintendent presents that to the board. This year's kind of out of whack because of such a big change.
Well, but
So what we're trying to do is work through association on some of these days.
No, I
because
see
we've
that
had
too.
consistent contact days of teachers working for very consistently for the last.
But I think
15
we've
years.
also received quite a few emails with suggestions on comp days because it is so much change in 1 year. So I get the
No,
line.
that's why I brought,
Yeah, I
the
get the line
question
of
up, and I
questioning
appreciate
too.
the explanation, because
yeah.
I think that question is.
It's
on
something we're
people's
getting a
mind.
lot. Yeah, it's an email that we're getting a lot. It is.
And on some of these days, I noticed there's probably 3 or 4 days where the holiday falls on a Monday. The January 20th, whatever, Labor Day, all those. On those weeks, like for example, January 20th, that pushes that week back 1 day. So the student contact day would be on a Friday. Okay. And that's with all of those Monday holidays, or just, I think so. May
Correct.
26th, Memorial Day, and I think Labor Day was on there too.
Trustee Kirkman, it's all those Monday holidays plus coming off of Christmas break to give a one staff day before student contact day. So there's 5 total in the calendar, in
Okay.
which Tuesday through Friday is the sequence.
Oh, and that's where the 1, 2, 3, and the 6th, January 6th,
Right.
coming off of Christmas break. But
And-
on the 20th, though, it pushes that week back. I see. I got you.
But we
Right.
still can't tell that it's a staff day because there's nothing on
Yeah,
his calendar
that's what-
referencing it. Okay, so it just looks like a no day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that, again, that's something that's in negotiation.
Yeah, no, but I get exactly why
Yeah.
you're asking the questions. We've got a lot of those. I mean, trustees, I'm just gonna throw out there, I know that, not at all that we can't make both decisions tonight, but I don't know that we have to either. I think that if we pick a day that we can, the logistics can be worked out at a later meeting if we feel more comfortable. I'm just throwing out there, again, they can be 2 separate choices or one.
I'm sorry, this calendar actually is different than the one I'm looking that we got in February, outside of the no contact days or the student contact days, staff days. Because this one on the screen ends June 5th. This one didn't have anything.
Can I hold that?
So can you go back up to the beginning, the month, August? That week, the 12th, are those teacher work days that week? And then the first student day is the 19th?
Correct.
Okay, so back down to June, we're ending on the 5th. So that's different than this calendar.
is.
So is that? I don't.
So
the discrepancy is
I
what
don't
I'm
know
asking.
what calendar you have. I know
This
we,
is the one that we were sent in
we,
February.
we put quite a few in the February one. There was multiple examples. Is
Yeah. I'm looking at the Friday off February calendar, which mirrors this one except for that last week of June. So I just want clarification. We're going to be
so
ending
we
school
give
June 5th.
sorry, Trustee Kirkman, to clarify, and I'd have to pull the February packet up, but we had 145 student day example in the February packet. We also had 150 student day example in the
Okay,
packet.
that's the difference.
The one you printed, is it 145 day or 150 day? Because
So we're looking at 100.
that would, right, what's proposed tonight is 150 day. What you printed off may be the 145 day
And talk
example.
us through why that one tonight is the 150 day.
That is the day range we've landed on when building the schedules out in regards to trimester with high school,
Okay.
meeting hours, stuff like that. So 150 is where we landed. Where the examples we gave in February, a lot of those things weren't clear for us yet. So the task force built out multiple
Multiple
4-day,
versions.
multiple
So
5-day.
we've fallen into
different
this
number
one
of
now
days.
because you have
Correct.
so many of the unforeseen variables that have been decided on at this point.
Much clearer now, right?
Got it.
Right.
Okay, and this was the only one I had to look at with the staff directed. That's why I'm looking at this calendar that I printed off. from
Well, and it's
February.
also probably
I
really
did.
helpful for the public.
So each trimester has 50 student days according to this calendar. The one that I printed off in February had 50, 47, 49. So there's the extra days at the end. of
That
June.
is correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Chair Taylor, trustees, and again, part of that was, remember, House Bill 521, we weren't
Mhm.
sure how that was going to land. And so I think there was multiple calendars that were developed at that time in February. We do have some of those answers and wanted to present something that had a specific date this time.
Dr. Russell, Chair Taylor, trustees, one thing that with this calendar, this is the calendar that really impacts students and their attendance at school. So while the board is totally within the purview to decide, the reason that we brought this calendar forward was so families could start to know, if you choose this is the day kids start in school, this is the day kids end in school. Our ability to negotiate around that for our teacher contract is still something we're within. The sooner that clarity is provided, that actually does help our community in understanding, okay, what is that going to be? And again, Trustee Kirkman, with what you've seen, we do have and have had conversations about what's our normal practice of days before school. The one thing that we've got to land on is, what does the non-student contact day look like? All of those pieces. And we are in discussions for negotiation of exactly what that will look like. This would provide clarity, either model of, here's when students start, here's when students end, and that then allows our community to go on that. And then we work around the teacher labor force thing that we would be doing in negotiations.
Yeah, and I get it. This is the calendar that me and my wife are looking for. So, someone to make a decision on. So I get it. Thanks for the clarification.
Chair Taylor.
So we can start
Please,
planning.
trustee Sue, please.
Just so I understand, we're having two separate conversations here. One about the actual calendar itself, and then we're also at a later time going to be discussing, or is that more of a plan on the times itself? The
Oh, the
start
start
times.
times?
Yeah, the
Start
start
and
times.
time?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I don't even see that discussed here.
So is it the same
Dr.
Chair
conversation?
Taylor, Trustee Sue, start times is not on this. That is something that's still in discussions, and it still has to do with busing, plays a part of that. Also, the workday, and that is something that is negotiated is the length of the workday and how that plays into it. So that could play into start times. Now, we did put a recommendation last month. It had some recommendations around it, but those still can be changed. And happy to discuss that if you'd like. But presented here tonight is the physical starting the school, holidays, Monday or a Friday non-student contact day, and most of that, as Mr. Evero said, so we could kind of have our community have some idea around that, and then we'll work through the teacher and the start and end times.
So two choices in one single motion. Basically, it would be if we did both tonight, then the motion needs to reference the day as well as the adoption of the calendar as presented, I would assume, because it's not marked.
Hey, sorry, I do have a question or a couple. So first, do we need to decide on the number of student contact days today? Or do we just need to decide whether Monday or Friday if we don't have the length of day already settled? Because the length of day and the number of days kind of go hand in hand. So is it just that we need to decide whether we're doing Monday or Friday so that we can take it back to the negotiations table, we can finesse the bell schedule, and we can see where everything falls? Or do we need to decide on the 150 contact days today, or what exactly is it that we have to decide today? And what are the dependent pieces that we can decide as a whole before May 31st?
Dr. Russell?
Trustee Taylor, or Chair Taylor, Trustee Binns, it's a very good question. What we would ask for the board is to decide on a student contact day, non-student contact day, Monday or Friday, and as the calendar presents, 150 student contact day. Once that is decided, then you could look at start times and end times, and that would play on the hours. But at 150 days, we have calculated on the proposed hours that we would meet the state minimum requirements, as well as, dependent on the high school schedule, the high school credit hour requirements as well. 150 days gives us that. If the board would like to go to 148 days and change the calendar, you absolutely can do that. We could go back and adjust it if you'd like, or if you'd like to see 152 day, whatever that is, that's the board's privy to have the administration come back and bring a different calendar. But tonight we are asking for 150 day student contact, and we're asking for what non-student contact day would be.
So,
Okay.
Dr. Russell,
Right.
really, I mean, it's in my simple mind, it is that the kids, if we vote on this or make a decision, the kids are coming in those blue dots. Now, we haven't decided what time they're going to be there on those blue dot days or what time they're going to go home on those blue dot days. And we haven't decided, because of contract negotiations are still ongoing, what that student or what that staff directed, non-directed day would look like. We're just saying, here's the blue dots, kids need to be in school on these days.
Chair Taylor, Trustee Kirkman, that is accurate.
I'll do it.
So
My
I
simplicity.
have a follow-up. So the reason why I was asking the question is because of the conversation that we had last time about length of day. And there were some current concerns that were raised about the days too long. Can we shorten the day? If we add extra days, can we shorten the length of each day? And so because I'm a little OCD, I sat down and I calculated everything and where the pieces would fit. And so if we go with the 150 contact days as they are right now, we also would need to go with the days, the length of days as were recommended at the bell schedule, the 8.1 hour student contact day for secondary, in order to get the seat time requirements to be equitable to what we currently have. That's why I was asking. So if we approve the number of days, we don't have as much wiggle room in the length of the day. Or if we wait and we approve the length of the day, then we can talk about the number of days, but they impact each other. And so that's why I was asking what we need to do today versus what we can look at in conjunction later. If the bell schedule if the length of the day hasn't been set. Does that make sense?
That's to me.
Trustee Taylor, Trustee Benz, it does make sense. Again, the recommendation for the 150 is because it's not set in stone. You could shorten the day still. You could cut some time. Yes, it would be less. It depends on the course in high school, because some courses would be 3 out of 3 and would actually have numerous hours more than this year. Some courses could have less if we do shorten the high school day. But it does have ramifications. They do play off each other, yes. But what we're trying to do, I think, tonight is to share, at least for the community, for just the family that's trying to plan the vacation, when does school start, when's school going to end. And again, happy to bring back a different calendar version if the trustees would like to see that. It does play off of that. We can do waivers if we need to, if that's something that we'd like to entertain. So I do believe there still is some flexibility within the school day and start times and end times that we could work through. Our busing contract will play a lot into that as well.
Chair Taylor, I
I
think,
don't know if there's
Please.
anything you guys wanted to add.
yeah, Chair Taylor, Dr. Russell, I think that, yeah, there are just so many moving parts. I mean, one decision will affect this, will affect that, will affect that. I totally understand. I get what Trustee Benz is saying, because if we're looking at a calendar of 148 or 140, what's it, 145, 148 days, how much does that change the school day? I mean, how much earlier? Have those times been built into? And I mean, do we know what that might, if we had 148, if we just ended at the end of May 31st, may have 31
Sure.
days in it? May 31st.
Trustee Taylor, Chair Kirkman, we have calculated some days. I'm looking at kind of our elementary schedules. And so, and we've looked at other school districts around the state about how many days they're in session and then how many hours they're in session. And so let's say we went to a 146-day calendar, and instead of having 6 hours and 50 days, we went to 7 hours and 5 minutes in a day. We would have 937 hours. So we've calculated some of those. Trying to get down, you could get down to Post Falls, which has 148 calendar days, and they're at a 6 hour and 45 minute instructional day, and they are very close to right around state requirements, or a little bit below, actually. So you're absolutely right. They do play into it. We have looked at a variety of different ways, and still could play with those. I think it's important to share on the calendars that are presented. We have extended the school year 1 week already, and added more time, because I think that was a question that was discussed at our last board meeting. Adding another week, if that were to be the request, I think it only cuts about 10 minutes hours off of hours when we calculated that. So it doesn't save a ton by adding another week. If you really wanted to shorten the school day and add, we'd have to add a couple of weeks likely to kind of meet our hours at the current level that we're at.
Superintendent Russell, Chair Taylor, trustees. So I did calculate out right now at our secondary, and then I'll talk about elementary just a second. Right now in our current model, we have 1,018.6 hours of instructional time. This is really important. Instructional time versus contact time with students on campus. By code, we cannot include passing period or lunch in calculating those hours. So right now in our current system at the secondary level, we have 1,018.6 hours. By going to a 50-day trimester on the proposed times we have given you of calendar of start and end time, we would end up with 1,059.75 hours over the year, which is an increase of 31.15 hours total in the year. But because of changing from 8 classes to 6 classes and all those nuances down, we have to be what, and Trustee Benz referenced this, if you get outside of the 50 and what we offer in the instructional class right now, that's when that starts to impact. Totally, the board can do that, but to hit the numbers that have equity of what we're doing right now, that has to be there as far as just the time frame. The contact for students to be on campus under this model, currently we have 1,199 hours when you include passing period and lunch and all those things within the year. The proposed changes that to 1,215 hours. So 16 hours over the year, secondary students are on campus more. For elementary though, given the start times and the busing dynamic and that variable is a big piece of that, we go from what we have in our current model of 1,040 hours in an instructional day of instructional time for our students to 1,025. So we actually lose 15 hours over the year with our elementary, given this dynamic and where we're at. If we shorten the day and lengthen the calendar, we're likely to lose even more time at the elementary level, getting down into the sub 1,000 hours per instructional time. And that again, when comparing other 4-day districts in the valley and across the state, those are those averages and things we're looking at from what's their daily contact time. One district I'll reference here in the valley, Homedale, has an 8-hour contact day for their students and secondary students and elementary students. So 8 hours in their day. Other districts, as Dr. Russell referenced, all the way down to the 6 hours and 45 minutes in that range. Our model is a 7-hour and 30-minute elementary day and an 8.1-hour secondary day if we have 71-minute class periods. So again, all of those things
With 150.
with 150 days. So again, we can extend it out another week or two.
Yeah.
One of the challenges to do that, this calendar is really, really close to when we start and end in normal years. We've had years where we've ended in that June 4th, June 3rd area. That's palatable for our community. If you get to the June 12th, June 16th, that becomes much less so. And we actually are changing the student start date from the 17th of this year, 17th of August, to the 19th of August again. So it's about a 2-day slide from what our traditional calendar has been. And then again, those hours, and we're actually increasing time with students at the secondary level. And we see a 15-hour decrease with elementary, given this model. So,
Okay. Well, I would like, maybe I am failing to understand something. So right now, when you're referencing those numbers, you're referencing the total number of contact hours, correct? Instructional hours at the secondary level. But please help me remember, students are taking 2 of 3 for each course for the year, right? So it's offered 3 times because it's each trimester, but they're taking 2 of 3. And so we really need to be paying attention to not the total number of hours, but the total number of hours per credit per course. Because if it's an A and a B course, you have 2 credits per course. If it's a single course, if it's a single credit, a one-off, elective, whatever, it's one time slot. And in order to maintain that one-time slot, so like I said, because really wanted to understand this. I sat down and I crunched numbers today because that's what I do. And at the currently proposed level of the 8.1 hour day, excluding lunch, excluding passing periods, both before the first class and between the lunches. So you have a full 30 minutes protected lunch. I've wound up looking at, 70 hours per class period, which is what we discussed before. And over the course of a trimester, each course at that, if we keep that 8.1 hour model that was proposed last time, 58.3 hours seat time, actual instructional time per kids, per credit, per course. If we drop the hours, because I played around, I'm like, well, what if we shrink the day? What does that look like? That was the only model with that length of day that actually got us close to the 58 hours that we currently have, which is below the 60, which the state requires. So we already are on a waiver. And so big whoop, we have to do a new waiver. But it is kind of a big deal because the next closest one, we were an hour and a half per credit shy of our current point at 58. And it just went, it got farther and farther away from that, and not an increase per credit per course the more we played with the time, unless we lengthened the year, which also didn't seem to mitigate that much. Even at 53 days per try, if we were on a 7.1 hour day, we would be nearly 5 hours less instructional time than the current 58 hours per credit. So that's what I'm trying to understand. We have two different buckets of time, but we're talking about them as though they're interchangeable, but I'm having trouble squaring that. Can you help me?
Chair Taylor, Trustee Benz, I think you've articulated it perfectly. I genuinely do. You are hitting the crux of the challenge that we have. There are different requirements or different ways to look at the time. And again, you very clearly articulated for seat time hours and credits and how we earn those at the high school level. There is a 60-hour state minimum of many districts appeal for just under that. We are one of those districts. One of the reasons we do that is we have mentoring within our schedule. If we did not have mentoring, we would be above 60 hours. But because we do have mentoring, that takes us down to the 58 hours that you referenced. We have right now in our courses teaching 2 of 2 semesters. So when you go 2 of 3 trimesters and you hit that 58 hours, that's equitable, if not equal, instructional time for the same course content. We can do that and have 2 days of mentoring on a 4-day student contact. We can still keep that piece. And if you'll remember, one of the things that we learned from the high school schedule in survey and information from parents and students, 61% of parents and 61% of students said mentoring is important. We want to keep that as a structure we have. So there are other ways. We could eliminate mentoring and get to above 60 hours. We could do those things in ways that make it plausible. The challenge becomes what our constituents say they want and need. And also the one thing I really don't want to get lost in this, we're adding in 2 extra options for kids within the year. You're going from 16 options for all of your courses to 18 options. So that again is how we navigate that through, getting down to the daily class time, the daily in each class time, the total of 6 periods and mentoring if we do that in the day, coming down to 7.1 hours of student instructional time that we do get to count in the calendar, equating to 8.1 hours of students on campus, including lunch and passing periods at the secondary level. That all then impacts our elementaries, and our elementary, with that, we're able to go down only 15 hours over the course of the year, given this model, which we feel is doable, given that now we're restructuring how teacher planning, preparation, intervention time can work as far as a planning perspective, because our theory is, and it is the theory in action, that will be much more engaging and much more relevant for our students. We're able to react in real time rather than right now, 15 hours more, but spread to where I don't have enough time to plan on Wednesdays. That should shift, and we should see a bump in student achievement on that. The whole goal of our district at the end of the day is the student achievement lens. This is to serve that purpose. That is the goal at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And then may I follow up with a couple of questions and comments?
Stephanie, Trustee Benz, we're going to allow Trustee Sue. He has a question, and we'll come back to you.
So the 150 days, that's really, we're asking for a maximum. And I think to be clear, this is all brand new territory for everybody. So, and Mr. Yarborough, I commend you and your team, and Dr. Russell as well, for how well thought out this is in the planning. 150-day max, we don't necessarily have to go all 150 days. We can always come back at a later day, at a later point, and go, hey, we feel like we can cut it back a little bit, just like we are with the 4 schools we're doing now. Is that correct?
Chair Taylor, Trustee Sue, that the board always has an option to adjust calendars. It's a practice that we wouldn't recommend because families do set many things around the school calendar, but the board always has that ability to do that.
Second question is, how many snow days have we built into this procedure out of curiosity?
Chair Taylor, Trustee Sue, typically we have built in 2 days into our regular calendar. I believe that's what the state allows. It's a very good question because I think we'd have to talk to the state around 4 days and how many days are built in that. On our currently right now, our calendar is 2 days. So that was my assumption going into a 4 days that we'd have 2 days built into that. And then after 2 days, you need to look at where you are with hours because in the 5 day, we were well over the state minimum. We didn't have too many concerns around that. When you start getting closer to the state minimums and again, this is not talking credit hours. We're talking overall hours that's in Idaho code. When you start getting close to that, then you start talking with the state and doing some petitions if you have too many days. But right now, my understanding is 2.
Is that
To-
sufficient, trustee
I-
Sue?
Just add that that is directly related to the total number of hours we have. So what the state statute refers to is if you hit their minimum, they'll give you that grace of however many hours they put in for snow days, usually computes to 2. So when we're over like we are right now, we normally have more than 2.
Thank you.
But Chair Taylor, what,
Can I go back to trustee Benz?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
Hold
keep
on,
it circular and then I'll go to trustee
It's
Kirkman.
on your
Trustee Benz, back to you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to close the loop on that. So if I'm understanding correctly, I just want to make sure we're all that. So I know that last board meeting, there was a concern brought up about the length of the day, and the reason why I was asking about whether we needed to decide the 150 student contact days today, or if we would look at those together, is that it sounded like that's still a concern. But the problem is if we try to shorten the day, that messes up the number of hours we have available to fulfill the credits, the credit per course at the secondary level. And that's why I was saying that those two pieces go together, and we're going to have to decide whether we want to have a waiver for a shorter seat time requirement than we currently have. If that's so, the length of the day would require that if we stick at the 150, that would be the only way to shorten the day. Or if we want to extend it so that we can shorten the day and keep the number of seat time hours. It's a trade-off, and unfortunately we can't do both. And so I'm just kind of asking, do we need to decide now for the number of contact days, because that kind of locks us into that length of day, or do we want to decide that later? Or do we just want to say we want this number of days, and then we'll decide how many hours of seat time we're comfortable with per credit on the waiver later? Those are the trade-offs that we have, and I just wanted to make sure that we know what we're ready to vote on today. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, trustee Benz.
Okay.
Trustee Kirkman?
no, I think she was asking for maybe some.
Oh,
Chair Taylor, trustee Benz, that's 100% accurate. I think it's a matter of perspective. They are related. There's no question about that. If you lengthen the day, you are going to impact hours. Going back to when we first started this whole shooting match, we discussed some research around hours. And it did mention that school districts that had high hours didn't see a lot of impact. School districts that cut too many hours did see a negative impact. I think it's also important to understand, though, there is nothing magical about 60 hours in a credit. There's nothing that says kids automatically learn at 60 hours. That is something that's just been in code for tradition and decades. Some kids learn at 55 hours, some kids learn at 50, some kids learn at 65. Kids learn differently. As part of the school system has to build in extra hours, which the Tri-6 will actually allow us to do some of the intervention and things that I think we can try to do as we get with that, though. So again, 60, you don't want to cut too short, though. I'm not trying to say that, but there's nothing magical about a 60-hour that's going to automatically mean learning. We as a school system want to maximize every hour we can. Can we cut down to 57? Yes, we have that ability if we want to shorten the day. You want to get down to 55? Personally, I wouldn't recommend that. I think that's cut in a little too short. They are connected, but you do have flexibility in that.
But Chair Taylor, Dr.
Trustee
Russell,
Kirkman.
on that note, I mean, the 60 hours is a state requirement though, right? And anything below that would require a waiver.
Correct.
I just get a little bit, I know that I understand the concept of not everybody learns at 60 hours and 65 and 55. I learned at about 120. So I get that. I would just don't want to be in a position personally where the district has to waiver everything, where we've boxed ourselves into a corner so much. And I don't think we're there, that we've painted ourselves into a corner where we have to go to a waiver on this, and then we have to go to a waiver on this, and then we have to go to a waiver on that. And that was going to be my comment about Trustee Sue's snow days. If we have 2 built into the calendar, or what if we have a whole week of snow days? At that point, are we looking at extraordinary options of online learning to make up those hours that we lost with a week of snow days? I mean, we ran into those issues this year. You know, some of the
Yeah,
ice and all that stuff.
Chair Taylor, Trustee Kirkman, yes, if you have an extraordinary snow event, then you do need to look at possibly extending your calendar and having more school days. That has happened in the past, and some school districts have had to do that. Snowmageddon was probably the last time that happened on a larger scale, but some school districts had to go to school longer in the summer for a day or two to make up some of those hours. So it absolutely can impact them.
But we didn't have to because we were in that longer, that was built into the 5-day week, right?
Right.
But now with the 4-day week, we may end up, if we have something like that, which nobody
Well,
knows, but if we do have something like that, we could end up going.
Chair Taylor, Trustee Kirkman, I believe in high school, we're actually over
We-
in this. So we actually gain that in the secondary. So if we have like 4 snow days, we'll be okay, secondary credit. Overall, I mean, not credit, but overall hours, we actually gain up to 1059, which is 31 more hours than we have now.
To-
Elementary.
Might be a different.
But they're down at
Different.
942. So again, our buffer,
940,
we
so we'd have 40
still have
hours,
almost
almost a
85
week.
hours over.
Okay, and I did write those numbers down, but so we're in that. 'Cause
We're safe.
again, personally, I just don't want to feel like we're painted
Good.
into a corner. We're like, oh my gosh, now we're looking at extraordinary circumstances, and I don't want that to.
Trustee Kirkman, or Trustee Taylor, Chair Taylor, Trustee Kirkman, absolutely. And I'm not suggesting by any means that try to cut as many hours as we can. That's not what we want either. There is flexibility. It's not a ton of flexibility. Our bus schedule also plays into this. And that's another variable that's out there. As we work through busing, if we can cut some time down to try to get that. I do believe, though, it is important that we don't cut too much time. And we, especially with our elementaries, it worries me a little bit cutting some of the hours down. And cutting too short based on that research that we looked at when we went to 4-day can actually hurt you.
Just a follow. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to bring a little context to that. If we cut the elementary day down by 20 minutes, we're in the 975 range for total hours, which now gets us a little closer to that scary area of too many snow days and needing to adjust the calendar.
Right now it's 1,000.
Just to give you a context, 1,025.
Okay.
But we
Currently.
were 1,040.
And a 5-day week
We
proposed for
were.
next year would be 140.
Now,
Correct.
But now
Correct.
we're at the
So,
1025.
and-
And
and-
how many minutes did you say cutting elementary? Sorry, this is what I wanted.
So if we were to cut by 20 minutes, that would put us down to 975.
Okay, thank you.
and that's getting too close to.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Too
see what
close
that
for
would have been.
comfort.
In,
Yeah.
in
Yeah, my
reference,
length of
in
day
reference
is
to the
really
comfort
around
you just
elementary and has
spoke
nothing
about,
to
yes.
do with secondary.
And then just so you're aware, a 10-minute shave off of that day puts us at 1,000 overall hours.
A 10-minute shave off that day, you said puts us at
Of our
1,000
proposed, puts us at overall at 1,000
for
yeah.
elementary.
for elementary.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Correct.
Chair Taylor, I think moving forward, the best absolute practice for presenting calendars is to include all the hours to the calendar that's being presented. So that way you can trust but verify prior to making a decision, because then you're not having to write it down either. So maybe that would be a best practice to move forward to next.
Well, I understand that, but these are extraordinary circumstances
They are.
with the busing, transportation, whatever else is going to come next week. And I mean, it's just, and so I'm not sure. My comment quick, and then I want to pick up where I left off here. So the mentoring, if needed, that's an administration decision, the mentoring thing. So, okay, we can once we get down that road, if that's something that needs to be adjusted, that's adjusted by you. That doesn't come back to us at all. All right, I just want to make that clear. And then this calendar, though, the district, we need to get this calendar, we need to get a calendar approved as soon as possible.
Are you trying to make a motion? Because
No,
I'm
no,
willing
no,
to
no.
entertain.
No, no,
Yeah,
I
like
got it,
if
I got it.
that's where you're going,
Well,
I
you'd
mean, I'm
entertain
here,
a
I'm
motion
all
no matter
ears.
what,
Like,
if somebody entertain,
okay,
if somebody
yeah,
made a
like-
motion. So I just want to make sure that, because I get the time, Trustee Benz makes some really good comments and points about these are married. The days, the start times and the calendar, they are married, but I also see the separation there. I guess the question I'm asking is, what if this calendar was brought back at this special meeting that some are gonna have one of these days, one of these weeks,
The
another one?
last week of May.
Yeah, is that too late? Is that too late for staff? Is that too late? I know that as a parent, I would want it as soon as possible. And so I get that. But
Dr. Russell, Chair Taylor, Trustee Kirkman, I think that's why we actually have presented the calendar the way we have, Trustee Kirkman, is if the board chooses to make a decision on the student contact days, you give families clarity on what they need.
I got it.
We're still negotiating the staff things. We can always adjust from there. But what you do if you choose to do that is you've given families the clarity for the next year. I would remind the board and our community, this is a 1-year calendar. We can always adjust as we need to, as we learn and grow. There are adaptations that will inevitably come. So again, it's one of those pieces. Again, with House Bill 521 lingering out there, that's why 150 was kind of the target. We've kind of talked through those things. So again, this doesn't lock us in perpetuity. If this is forever and always to be, there's that piece of it. One other piece, linking back to a question you had about wavering out of everything, there is another mechanism that the board can choose to declare mastery, and then seat time is not something we have to waiver, but that's a board decision. And there is a code reference that you can go through if you want to do that. That again, opening that up to those options and those pieces are there. That depends on how the board would choose to go, but that is a possibility.
Um,
Um,
yeah, I
Trustee
lost mine.
Jennings, do you have any questions or comments?
I think choosing a day is going to be beneficial. A lot of the days, depending on which day you choose, is kind of set in stone, whether it be a holiday. I mean, there are some administrative tasks days that can be changed, but yeah, I think seeing a calendar that has absolutely everything encompassed would be beneficial. But there's a possibility for
When you say everything encompassed, what do you mean?
like the staffing days and
The
obviously
student, the non-contact,
Non-contact
which
days.
days those are gonna
right,
be?
absolutely.
And what about times?
Yeah. I mean, there's still, obviously there's some things that are still being discussed between negotiations and that sort of thing. But I think if we had an overall picture on one page, it would be extremely beneficial.
Chair Taylor, Trustee Jennings, when you say times, are you talking start and end times?
Yes.
And for clarity, my concern around length of day really only falls into elementary. I think that keeps coming back to me, but it really is, I'm understanding credit, seat time, movement through CTE. It's just really the length of day. I think 5 minutes makes a difference getting off the bus for our elementaries. So, but I felt like that was addressed in the presentation. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is if we keep talking about secondary time for mine's sake, I'm solved. So, but if we're not, because we're all confused, that's fine too. But my time really is falling down to that elementary, which I already realized we're losing seat time in. So just for clarity's sake. That was it. That's the only comment I had.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessary, because I'm with you there too. I just wonder if having those seat times at the same time as we're doing this calendar, we just make that decision all at once. I don't know.
Yeah, trustees, this is a hard one, so I'm open. Please.
But I don't want to push this down.
Yeah,
either,
I'm not
because
either. So
then-
I'm super prepared if what we're willing to do today as a board is just pick the day. If we want to adopt that calendar, we do have a meeting coming up fairly quickly. And if that's something that needs to be brought back, a yes vote does that, just as a reminder.
But Chair Taylor, I also think that this calendar that we're looking at right now, 150 days, to me, it seems like a happy medium.
It does.
if that makes sense.
It
It gives
does.
us enough wiggle room if, but also doesn't extend it beyond. So that's what I'm looking at. So I'm comfortable with this calendar, the way it's presented right now.
I feel like the board needs the ability to say that we're comfortable with what you're showing us, but at some point we may not be, and we may want to bring something back because we're getting a vast amount of information. And I just think that that's a fair statement to make. And so that's why I'm just saying that if but
But if you do that, are you talking about bringing, if down the road, if the decision was made on this calendar tonight,
Mhm.
and down the road, a week or whatever, that we'd bring this decision back to
I'm simply
the
saying
agenda?
if there is something in 2 weeks that gives us a better perspective to make a better choice, why wouldn't we bring it back in 2 weeks?
A whole new calendar?
I'm not saying a whole new calendar, but maybe we
Or a different
realize
calendar.
it's like a day extra,
Okay.
right? Maybe it comes and we realize that a day extra gives us this, or, 5 hours less gives us X. I think as long as we swiftly make that choice, and don't hear me prescribing, guys, I think it's a big choice. I'm simply saying that I think that we could also bring this back swiftly, not a month from now, but in the next few weeks as we gather more information. It is difficult. I agree with what Trustee Jennings
But if-
said. It'd be nice to have it all in one place so we can say, yes, I'm saying yes to that. Yes, I'm saying yes to that. Yes, I'm saying yes to that. Because it feels like we're saying yes to unforeseen.
Well, if that's the case, then why would we act on this decision tonight then? If there's ifs down the road, why not address them all at once?
I guess I feel like I'm a 95% solved. I don't know that there's anything that's going to give me a 5%. My main interest is reducing the time of the elementary day. That's all that I'm thinking about.
I can see what Trustee Kirkman's
I
saying.
can
though.
too.
Not knowing where the staffing days fall, it's hard to make a decision on a Monday or Friday because then all of a sudden we're going to be given that information and it could differ from what we were hoping for or what we initially thought.
I can hear that too. That's why I'm trying to say I hear that.
I think if Madam Chair, I apologize. I think if we're talking about an AB schedule on a 5-day, experts in the room, right? Everybody knows what they're talking about.
Lots of experts in the room.
Lots of experts in the room,
yes.
right? 20 some years of experience. We are dealing with extraordinary
Yes.
exceptions right now, right?
Yes.
We're dealing with the new Tri-6
Uncharted
schedule,
territory.
uncharted territory, Tri-6, 4-day student contact week. There's a lot of unknowns, and I trust that the administration and staff have made all the mathematical calculations properly, and they are presenting us with the best option. And with that, I am prepared to make a motion along that line.
Trustee Benz did all the calculations too. She did a good job.
Do I still have Trustee Benz there? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, trustees, if there is no other discussion, we will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the Friday non-student contact day calendar and to approve the calendar as presented. The 150-day calendar as presented.
Okay, second, do we want to speak to that? It's been seconded so we can speak to it.
Yeah, I'll speak to it, Madam Chair. I really don't have a problem with this calendar. The thing is that there's a few ifs that I think we could probably determine, not in a month, but literally within the next week or so. And as much as that pains me, because I would love to see the calendar and start making plans, I think that if we can get some of those other ifs answered, or at least presented at the same time, and then just do it all at once, rather than do it this time and then do another one this time or another one this time. I just would rather have it all done at once. When it comes to the calendar, start times, I don't know if we can get to the teacher, the staff days, because that's a negotiated item, but certainly the calendar, the Monday, Friday, and the start and end times during the day. I think we just do it all at once. If we can do that in the next week or so.
We have a special meeting. I mean, guys, it'll have to go on the special meeting,
Yeah,
but
no, I get it.
yeah, I seconded it for discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion, trustees? Trustee Benz?
Oh, I was going to say something similar. I think deciding on Monday and Friday today, which one would make sense and would help that negotiations process, speed that along. And I think if if we're going to have some kind of resolution to that or suggestion coming out of that soon, it might be nice to see all the pieces together rather than voting on this and then saying, oops, this other piece might not work. I think it might be prudent just to approve the Monday or Friday and then see how all the rest of the pieces fit.
And just for clarity, Clerk Lamont, that is what I
And you also
Motion.
included the 150-day calendar as presented, so you did both.
Which is what was asked. All right, trustees,
But that's not what trustee Benz alluded to. She was just looking at the Monday or Friday.
she is right. I
Yeah.
think she's saying that she probably doesn't agree with that motion because of what it did on both.
Right.
So I think she's saying, and I actually wanted to second it to speak to it as well. It feels a little squishy to me too. I'm almost there. I'm just not a full yes, but I wanted us to be able to speak to it. But I like the idea of having more pieces of the puzzle. I don't know why this one feels so squishy, but I would agree the Monday or the Friday has to be decided tonight. I feel like that too. Any other discussion? Because with that, I'll take.
Yeah, Chair Taylor, just
Please.
one more note. I went back and looked at our February agenda with some of our information we had. And under the student calendar section, we had the feedback from the possible early start to late start. And starting basically when this calendar is proposed was 70% favorable according to our data, roughly. There weren't exact numbers, but it does run a week longer. But knowing that we start 2 weeks later and ended 2 weeks later, which is literally the week after this calendar is proposed. So we kind of met in the middle with our ending day. Instead of it being the last day in May, it's actually 1 week into June. The last day in May was extremely favorable, and the 2 weeks into June was unfavorable. So we've kind of definitely split the difference as far as that data goes, but we still have the preferred starting date on this calendar.
Which is good.
Which is August. You're talking about
Mid-August.
Mid-August.
Right.
That's helpful data too. Okay, so trustees, we have a motion on the table. It's been spoken to. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Right.
Okay, I'll accept a new motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the Friday non-student contact day on the calendar.
I second. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, you want to speak to that motion?
Sorry, does somebody want to speak to that motion?
Well, of
I
course.
felt like we spoke. I felt like we
No, I
spoke,
just-
please. Yes, sorry.
Okay, so the motion is just a Friday or a Monday. That's it.
Correct.
There's no start times. There's no, what does that non-contact day look like, other than it's going to be either a Friday or a Monday.
Trustee Kirkman, hold. Clerk Lamont, can you confirm that that was the motion? I felt like it was, but I want you to
Yes.
confirm.
I'll just read it back to approve the Friday non-student contact day.
Yes.
Just the day.
All right.
Okay. Any other clarification or comments, trustees?
You mean me?
No, no, I mean all of us. I
I
mean
vote
every
aye. I
single-
vote aye.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We got a fiver. We got a fiver. Okay,
There's still some questions.
there are still some questions. With that, you guys, we are going to move directly into see the remodel bids, knowing that the calendar will be coming back to us before May 31st.
Chair Taylor, trustees, a last item on our agenda is to discuss several bids that have to do with some of our school remodels. Mr. Stoffer, Director of Operations, is here to share about those bids.
Trustee Taylor, trustees, before you in your packet, you have our bid for the remodel of the West Campus to house our two new campuses, both Union and Nampa Academy. If the part of this package, you have lots of documents. There's three different sets of documents. First is the invitation to bid, which was placed out by Benetton, who's acting as our GM, our CMGC for this project. They also give you the second document, which is the amount of people who are contacted in the bids that we received from those individuals as well.
Ooh, this is the first time we've seen something this in depth, correct?
Correct.
I was so excited about this. I
You're
just was.
weird.
I really was. And even the
Yeah.
way that it broke down the bids by who bid us, the differences in pricing, because you can see, I mean, plumbing, yeah. Sorry, I just loved this. Okay.
Madam Chair, this is a direct correlation to us using the CMGC model versus the other models that we've used in the past. This is one of the benefits that we've had. Also with it is typically what we saw in the past previous to this is that we had one solid number that had everything inside of it. This one, we actually are bidding out every single subcategory that we have as part of the package. And that's where Bennington is coming into play to help us navigate those things and to be able to outsource and look for more subcontractors to help us with our pricing. I would direct the board to look at that page 5 that I mentioned in the memo. We had originally discussed rough estimates of what this would cost us. We have come underneath what our estimates are. Again, these are still estimates, but we are significantly underneath the original estimates, which is a great bonus for the district and also our community. So before you have our action item, which would be to approve this bid package has been presented. This will allow us to start the ordering process or allow our vendors to start the ordering process to get everything in on time. And again, with the expected completion date of August 1st. And with that, I'll entertain any other questions.
I never know when Courtney's done. He just like
There you
stops.
Just making sure we have connection to trustee Benz. Okay, perfect. Trustees, any questions for Mr. Stuffer? I will entertain conversation, questions, or a motion.
The comment is, I agree with Chair Taylor. This is great. The details, the amendment that was even in there, all that kind of stuff. This is right up my alley. So I love
Same.
it.
Yeah, it really does help with the impact of the
Seeing it
decision
all.
that we have to make. It really does help, and it feels good when I'm seeing something. And just to throw this off there, right? When I'm seeing that we went out and we got plumbing bids, and we were bid anywhere from $7,400 to $11,000, and so we can show that clear cost savings. So I mean, it really is when you're. My dad always says that not spending money is the same as making money. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
it's true.
I love how the
Yeah, I
mean,
love
the
it.
floor covering 30,000 to 18,000. I mean, good
Yeah.
grief.
So
Right.
anyway, again, for the process, I really love that we did this. So
Heap the praise on.
Courtney, you need it.
Chair Taylor.
Yes, please.
So on, Mr. Stoffer, on some of these other facilities that we're having to remodel to, are we going to see similar data? Okay, very good.
Trustee Taylor, just to make sure that everybody in the audience or in the community heard that yes, this is our new model of how we're going to approach our larger projects.
Yeah, it's so helpful and it's so transparent. It seriously, it makes our job easy.
Thank you, Stoffer. Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion.
Please.
I move to approve West Middle School conversion bid package as outlined in the contract provided by Bennington Construction Company.
I second. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes, and that is the end of tonight's meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are adjourned.